Welcome back, everybody. This is Beautiful Becca, and we have another Thursdays Through the Page. Before I get into this, I do want to update you guys on something. I've been on Squarespace since for a few years now, and I'm not sure what happened. I ordered a domain so that my channel could be could have a .org to it, and I paid the annual purchase of $20, and then for some reason in May I got a bill saying that I had purchased 4 more domains, which I did not, and I canceled them immediately. And then when I went back to check on to see if the site was working, it was no longer connecting to my name with the arts.org site. So after much battling, after a few emails and trying to figure out what to do and getting Squarespace support, I decided at this time to delete the account. So the account is still on my YouTube channel for the moment, but I want to make sure I print out all the invoices, and I'm going to delete my Squarespace account. I'm going to see if there's another way I can upload my art teacher education samples and student samples to another site, or just make it simple and create a PDF for it in the meantime, so that other educators who want to possibly look into my art education history can definitely look at that. In the meantime, let's get started. So I did read a few more books for this last month, including Whoopi Goldberg's If You Complete Me Run, and I read one book by Scott Hamilton, the Olympic champion, gold medalist from 1984 of skating stardom. I want to go into that book a little bit further on once I complete his book, The Great Eight, and I finish his other book, Landing It. So one of the books that I did finish for this month, for the Pop Sugar Reading Challenge, is Avi's A Beginning, a Middle, and an End. I forgot what prompt this was originally when I first read it in 2016, and this is what the book looks like. I give the cover a 4. It's really, really cute, and I focused mainly on the title, but it was the subtitle, The Right Way to Write Writing. That's the one that did it for me. And of course, because it's a young adult novel, you have Avon the snail and you have Edward the ant, and their little adventures on just trying to write. And it's full of wit. There's different ways on how they speak to each other, like, if you look up, you could never be down. So then why does Avon the snail say, well, then why am I always down? That sort of thing. So the subtitle plus the snail and the ant on the cover is what drew it for me. Why I chose this book. It's my favorite book by Avi from the past prompt. And I forgot what prompt this was in 2016. Do I have that one? Well, I'll need to find those book lists later. Let's continue. So other books that I read by Avi, and of course these are listed earlier. I read Beyond the Western Sea. This is a Dickensian type of novel where you're literally left hanging onto the edge of each episode, just like Dickens did when it came to the Pickwick Papers, which I still have yet to read. I also read his really creepy. I thought it was going to be about postmortem photography, which it kind of is. The Seer of Shadows and the young adult war novel. Don't you know there's a war on? And of course, The School of the Dead. The feelings this book invoked in me, well, it's the everyday struggles of just trying to write and never fully satisfied to complete an ending to it. And at the end of this particular children's novel, Avon realizes the majority of what we're focusing on what most writers focus on, is what they call the muddle. Instead of the middle, it's the muddle. So there's a few cute passages in here, but these are the ones that I really liked. So this is from Edward the ant. He says to Avon the snail, "After all, if you're looking down, it's only logical to assume you're looking up. But if you're looking up, you must be down." And then when he tells Avon to get a grip, Avon says, how can I get a grip when I have no hands? But my favorite was actually what the author, and I am so grateful that I was able to do that interview with Avi. I love that interview. He says here, some time ago, one of my young readers wrote to me about writing. Among the many wise things he said was that a good story consists of a beginning, a muddle, and an end. It was the smartest description of a story I've ever read. I wish I knew his name. Perhaps he'll read this book. If so, I thank him for giving me a title. So true. Did reading this book change me in any way? No, but it's always a trigger. So, like, if something that you read triggers you to do something or to take action, that's what this book always does for me. If ever I'm in a writing funk, I need I need like a pick-me-up, a trigger to help me to continue to write. So that's what this is. Who would I like to share this book with? Writers and authors. Those are our newbies, those who are professional. And what would I hope for them to take away from it? So even a young adult novel, a young children's novel like this, can be just as witty and inspire future writers to write just as more wit and wisdom. I absolutely love it. But the message at the end of the book, and if hopefully I can go to that page and see it. Yeah, it says here, I don't want to give too much away. He says, Avon! Cried Edward. That's exactly where a writer should be. After all, creatures generally have... Oh yeah, so here. So Avon says, I had to admit my thoughts are still in a muddle. Avon, cried Edward. That's exactly where a writer should be. After all, creatures generally have nothing to do with their beginnings, and it's not often they consider their ends, but in between, there's all that muddle. The writer's job is to write about the muddle, and nothing can be further from the truth. But the actual hardest part of writing is the middle. You have the ending in mind, you have the beginning in mind. It's in the middle, or in this case, the muddle. That is the hardest to get through. So I have read this book year after year after year because it's my favorite prompt. Would I recommend it? Absolutely. So the ratings, the writing style, I loved it. The message, I loved it. The reading experience, always loved it. So let's go to two of the other prompts in this here, you know what? Let me start off with this one. The genre hound, science fiction. Science fiction is an essential genre that explores the impact of scientific concepts on humanity. It looks into the future, illuminates new worlds, postulates where humankind might go next, and explores the ideas that underpin human life and society. My favorite sci-fi. So this is by far my absolute number one favorite. It has withstood the test of time. It's Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451. There is nothing that compares to this. It's what did I write down? The best first sci-fi book about a future where books are banned and destroyed because they allow people to think freely, conforming to social expectations of perfection based on appearance and aesthetically pleasing to the eyes, people not allowed to feel real love or sorrow, firemen who set fires instead of fighting them, and burn books. Bradbury predicted people would have future earplugs tuned out from reality, huge floor-to-ceilings televisions, technology and AI taking over human tasks, future bans on books like we're dealing with now, about diversity and culture, and surprisingly, this is where it got very, very creepy. The American mindset on electing people without proper credentials and ethics. That is what Fahrenheit 451 focused on, and it is absolutely my number one favorite sci-fi. There was one other book that really surprised me. And thanks to the Pop Sugar Reading Challenge, these are books I wouldn't have even considered reading, because it's just not something that, it's not one of the subject matters or genre that I'm really used to. But believe it or not, and I really hope I get her name right. This was, I'm trying to think of, I believe this is what it said. I think it's what it's called. An Afrofuturistic novel, Zahrah the Windseeker. Now, if this title does not sound familiar, the name of the author will, and I really hope I get her name right. Nnedi Okorafor-MBachu. She is the one behind the Black Panther series, which I didn't know that she had written. I did not know that. So, from what I can recall from the story, it's an alternative Earth, and it's all about an alternative Earth and a forbidden forest, and a young girl going through puberty with magical hair. With a magical head of hair, is confronted to break the rules to save her only friend by going into the forest. The device they discover in the library prior to this is the only clue to the secret of the forest and the antidote to a fatal disease that has marked this alternative reality. And there's just so much that's part of it. The people that she seeks in the marketplace, to those that are the unwanted, are actually the ones that help her to confront her fatal flaw, which is she's always followed the rules. Now she has to break them to save her best friend. So that's the science fiction. Now, this was something that I didn't really look into, but now I know what I really want to focus on here. So, gifts that keep on giving. Books make the best gifts. These are the books I would most like to give. So let's start off with the first one. This one, A Beginning, a Muddle, and an End. This is from my friend Laura, aka Buttercup. She's a fellow. She is, hopefully one day, she is a fellow writer. She is my sister when it comes to writing. She and I have been, it's sort of like I want to call it a friendly rival between the two of us. We have known each other since middle school. High school, we really hit it off, and we've been friends ever since. And like me, she needs inspiration to be able to write every day. She's been working on this novel about about the Holocaust, but it's taking place in New York after the fact. So I have yet to see what she's going to do about that. 2 books for my friend Hillary, who I've also known since middle school, and we've been really good friends. There's 2 mystery novels. Amethyst Dreams by the great Phyllis Whitney. I wish if she was still alive, she would be one of those people that I would love to interview. Amethyst Dreams by Phyllis Whitney, and The Green Mile by Stephen King. The Green Mile, according to Stephen King, was another one of his novels that he specifically set as a type of Dickensian novel, where the chapters go so fast, you're hanging on to the end of each episode. And there's a few differences in the story that were not in the film. And I'm not going to spoil anything. You need to read it. But Hillary, surprisingly, and I didn't know this, she really likes the author James Patterson, and she likes his mysteries and all. So I'm pretty sure she would really like this. Now, there is one other book for someone else. This one, The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane. Who would I love to share this book with? Who would I love to give this book as a gift? Andrew Garfield. The reason is, in one of these interviews, I think it was the British GQ, of the 10 most essential things that this actor cannot live without, and they have a bunch of them. But Andrew Garfield, maybe about 5-6 months ago, did this interview with them, and the first thing he showed before the books was the rabbit ring that he had. His mother was his greatest inspiration, and she's the one who helped guide him on his path towards theater. She simply said, "Why not try something creative?" So he tried a bunch of creative outlets before he was bit by the showbiz bug, you could say. So his mother, in this interview, he says his mother identified with the rabbit. And because where they were living, and I forgot if they were living in Epsom or Surrey, but they had all these rabbits in their garden, and she absolutely loved them. And he wears the rabbit ring as a way of keeping her very, very close. So if you ever get a chance, Andrew, if you're watching this, you need to read this. You could read this maybe in a couple of hours. My advice, have the tissues ready. The next one. This was a rare gem for me to read. The Beauty of Dusk by Frank Bruni. And I would give this to my Uncle Aaron. He is my mom's middle brother. He has been very close to, let's just say there were a few times in his life where he came so close to losing his life because he didn't take care of it. And he turned to God for wisdom, for advice, for getting him through the toughest times in his life. And The Beauty of Dusk, Frank Bruni, I'm going to have to look back on online, but I believe Frank Bruni is a journalist, and he had something suddenly go wrong where he thought he was having a stroke, and it had to do with his eyesight, and that he was about to lose his vision. And he talks about that journey, this personal journey on the beauty of dusk. It's sort of like seeing the beauty of darkness. And so that's what Uncle Aaron sees. I believe he and Frank Bruni both retaught themselves to research on how to improve their lifestyles and their health. And they had to turn to other sources. They had to see things through a whole new light. I love watching TCM, Turner Classic Movies. And one of these movies was entitled The Enchanted Cottage. And the actor, if I'm not mistaken, was Herbert Marshall. And he plays this blind pianist who helps this former pilot who was shot down during the Second War. He was scarred, and he suffered from PTSD. He couldn't really find himself to the point where he nearly took his life. And he's complaining about all this and all that. And Herbert Marshall's character, I completely forgot the character's name, but he looks at this guy and he says, "You are not just a case. You are a human being. You need to remember. You need to remind yourself of that." And then Marshall's character, I wish I could remember the name. I'm drawing a blank right now. But his character basically helps this pilot and this very introverted young woman whom they start off a beautiful friendship, and they end up getting married. And there's something about the magical qualities of the Enchanted Cottage where they see themselves as perfect as they really are. But Marshall's character says, "When I had my sight, I was really blind. When I lost my sight, I was able to see even more." Another book, and I actually do have a copy of this, Lightposts for a Living by the late artist Thomas Kinkade. I love this book. I would give this to my friend Jessie. We both have been through a very traumatic time in the last few years, she lost the greatest love of her life just before the pandemic, and everything came crashing down. And she's always into the cosmos. One of her favorite writers is Rhonda Byrne, who wrote The Secret, and it's about the laws of attraction, the cosmos. This would definitely be a book that I would recommend for her. So she's into the everyday wisdom and laws of attraction. Traveling with Pomegranates by Sue Monk Kidd and her daughter. I forgot the daughter's name on the tip of my tongue at the moment. Or did I write that down? I don't see it. But anyway, Traveling with Pomegranates is a mother-daughter memoir of Sue Monk Kidd and her daughter and their trip to the Mediterranean, to Greece, I think to Egypt. And I did actually give this book to my mother. I have my own copy, but I wanted her to have hers as well. It's a mother-daughter relationship and togetherness, and what they discover on this mother-daughter journey all over the world, and it was absolutely wonderful. I am a big fan of the Mitford novels by Jan Karon, and I do not remember how this started. I seriously do not remember how this started. It may have been for my piano teacher, but whether or not, it would be my former piano teacher, Claudia Roberts, who still lives close by me. It's Christian comfort, and Christian comfort is what did I write down? Walk? No, what did I write down? No, Christian comfort is, it's all about this priest, Timothy Kavanagh, whose life is turned upside down by a few things. Number one, he discovers he's a diabetic, so he has to start taking, I think he has to start taking insulin, and his life is also turned upside down. The very first chapter of the first book is called Barnabas, and it's about this, he opens the door, and suddenly he is jumped on by this huge dog. And the dog only follows his command if he says something from the scriptures, and the dog obeys. Go figure. And from that point on, new things. His flaw was that he was always a priest. He always followed in God's in God's path, and he never really went away to stray from the path. Now suddenly, he's met with a whole bunch of new responsibilities, new things that he feels that he becomes responsible for, that he never thought possible. And this guy is in his, I want to say he's in his 70s, and it's like, is he really ready for this new venture on life? But there's such a great read. I haven't read the entirety of the series, and I've yet to, but I would give this book to my piano teacher, because when I was a student with her for about 8 years, every time I walked into her house, it was like walking through time. It was a different atmosphere. And to me, what I wrote here is Christian comfort is within her house. To walk through is like stepping through time into Mitford itself. That's what I put down. And there's a whole bunch more books that I would love to gift, but here's the other one. And we really both loved this book of compilations of advertisements and info and searches. This is a Bintel Brief. And the Bintel Brief was it was the Jewish Daily Forward newspaper created and established in New York for Jewish immigrants that came from Russia, from all over the world to the United States. And it was a way for them to help spread the word, to ask for advice, to seek lost relatives that may be looking for them. And it's, Laura, I gave a whole bunch of, I think I gave her the entirety of my Holocaust book collection, and World War II, and everything that was connected to that. So, because she is working on a book about New York around the period of the Holocaust, the Bintel Brief is definitely one of the books that I would leave to her. So, that's all I have for the reading log for Thursdays Through the Page. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Don't forget, my performance in Cabaret in the Valley is in 2 more days, and tickets are still being sold. If you can't make it to the venue, please consider buying a ticket for the live stream, because once you get that QR code, you will have that, and you can watch it at any time, even if you can't make the time from the time that the live stream begins, which is at 6 p.m. to 8. With that QR code, you still have access. If you are able to make it, please make sure to buy a ticket, or however many people that you want to bring. Don't forget, check the charcuterie cups before you buy the ticket, because it will give you that option once you select your ticket for general admission, or however. Once again, if you get more than 1 ticket, once you fill it out with your information, you will scroll down. And if it's just for 1 person, you will see your choice of a charcuterie cup and beverage. Select more than 1, like 2, 3, or 4. You will see general admission 1, general admission 2, 3, 4, how many others. Each person gets their own choice of charcuterie and beverage. Once you have all that selected, all you have to do is pay. And we look forward to seeing you at the performance. So I wish you all the best of luck, and keep on reading. Bye.